I never really talked about this publicly. This was the toughest time in my life. It's crazy. It's kind of like that part in Malcolm X. That's too much power.
You're dealing with all these charges from the city and state, and then boom, here come the feds.
Man, it was the most embarrassing thing for me that I betrayed my wife, my then wife, and my children.
I wanted to throw out a couple of names which you never spoke on publicly. Christine Beatty, Tamara Green, the alleged party at the Manuggan.
Oh, wow.
The question most people want to know, was there a party? One of the first things that people say, whether they even understand it, know anything about it, he stole money.
I'm gonna look right in this joint.
Yeah.
You know, this was the thing that was most troubling to me. This whole idea of stealing money. I've never been charged with stealing any money. I've never been convicted of stealing any money. I've never been charged of misusing any public funds. I've never been, or convicted, I've never been charged of embezzlement. I've never been charged with that. So that was something started by y'all. But we couldn't see it because the media was working overtime to have you feel some type of way about me, because if they could separate me from y'all, they could kill me, and then they can kill y'all.
This neighborhood business. Come on now, you know what we doing. This neighborhood business. We out here every day with it, all day, every day. This neighborhood business. Where you at? What you doing? We standing on neighborhood business. Welcome to the neighborhood, where we stand on neighborhood business. This program is about building power, unity, and pride, block by block. We here to support our businesses, strengthen our communities, and make sure Detroit neighborhoods shine again. Because when we stand together, we win together. This new era Detroit, neighborhood business. Come on.
What up, though? And welcome to the neighborhood, where we mind the business that raised us. Today, we're kicking off our first ever neighborhood conversation with one of Detroit's most prolific and controversial figures, some may say of all time. Whether you love him or hate him, mention his name and it becomes an instant conversation piece. Former mayor of the city of Detroit, my good brother, Kwame Kilpatrick. How you doing, man? You all right?
Bro? You all right?
Respect. Much love.
Oh, much love.
How you feeling, man?
I'm good, brother.
Good.
I'm real good. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you here, good brother.
The inaugural show. You kicking this joint off.
There we go, man. The right way.
All right, let's do it. Let's dive in this joint.
Let's get it. Yeah. So, man, look, elected mayor in 2002 at the age of 31, you know, making you the youngest person ever to hold the office. Take us back to that time and what that was like, because, you know, I remember how iconic, you know, it was during that first run. I was still in high school, personally myself, and the young black boys all over the city. You know, you were the first example of a black man with political power that we've ever seen. For those of us who missed the Coleman era, you know what I mean? Take us back to that time, man. Like, what was that like?
You know, 2001. I was the leader of the State House. I was the first African American and youngest person to ever had that position, and it just happened that Archer wasn't running. There was this major announcement, and Archer's not seeking re-election, and I got called down to a couple of meetings. They like, it was the first time. You should run. I'm like, man, I'm too young. I'm telling them, man, ain't nobody gonna vote no young dude, man. Y'all tripping. And but when I got in it, it's something I always wanted to do since I was 10 years old, is be mayor of the city of Detroit. And so that was my lifelong dream. I didn't want to be president, governor. I just wanted to be the Detroit guy, you know? Yeah. And so it was the energy was off the hook. The energy was off the hook. It was, you know, like you said, young people in the streets, all in the neighborhoods, you know, you can feel it all over.
I remember.
Yeah, and so that summer, You know, we was running against Gil Hill, you know, Inspector Todd, you know.
Inspector Todd,
And so,
the
you know, he
infamous.
was so popular. So it was a real young versus old election. And young people was everywhere. We had them bracelets, T-shirts, everything. So it was like a big movement in the city of Detroit. I liken it to how it was when Obama was running.
Yeah, and
you
it
know?
was. I remember exactly how that felt, and it was just that. And I just remember the overwhelming amount of support that you had during that time, and then just how good it felt in the city.
Yeah.
You know, when you were around, it was just a real good feel.
Yeah, people should know too. I won the you know, demographic age groups. I won the age group between 18 and 35. Everybody thought that.
Yeah.
But I also won over 60.
Okay.
So it was like this. I lost everything in the middle. So from
Right.
59 to 36, I lost. But the older people in this city wanted to see something new, and I think that was a real positive thing for the city at that time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. But before you was mayor, you were elected to the Michigan House of Representatives, 96, after your mother vacated her seat, you know, and mounted a successful run for Congress. You were also elected minority floor leader, right? To the Michigan Democratic Party from 98 to 2000. And you was also elected House Minority Leader in 2001 and became the first black man to hold that position. I know you come from a strong political background with your mom, who was U.S. representative from 97 to 2011, serving the 13th and 14th or 15th, excuse me, district. What was your inspiration, you know, to get into politics? Was it, you know, your mother? You know, was it something else? But what really like it inspired you, you know, to really go full force and really tackle that, you know, just politics in general, but most, you know, and particularly, you know, the mayor's seat?
It was definitely my mother at first, without question. You know, I was 8 years old when she ran the first time. I went to the House floor. I sat in there, man, and she let me push the green button to an attendant. I was done. I said, I got to work in this Capitol. This is gonna be, man, this is what I want to do. I was done, you know, and going in the community. I used to love going to campaign with her, talk to people on the porch, and she exposed me to that. But the dream to be mayor started when I met Coleman Young.
Okay, tell us about that. Tell us about that.
I was at Fairbanks Elementary School, Detroit Public School, right there on John C. Lodge and Seward. It's closed now, but they had this contest, this Black Studies contest, where you get up on the stage. It was like spelling bee, and you just tell them, you know, who invented this, you know, and it's, you know, who invented the straightening combs. You had to say it, you know, who invented the stoplight. You had to say that, you know, Gary Morgan. And I won.
Right.
I won for my school, and I went to the regional competition. We had regions back then, Region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I won the region, and all the regional leaders got to go meet Coleman Young at the Manuggan mansion.
Wow.
So my mother took us down there. You know, they let each kid, I think I was in Region 4 or 5, I can't remember which one it was. We was in line according to our region. The person go in, they close it, go in. So when they opened the door, it was Coleman Young standing right there at the Manuggan.
Wow.
And I was like, what is Coleman Young? Because I used to watch the news like it was a movie.
Right.
Then, you know, they say, Coleman Young gonna be able to do it. I used to be sitting there like, boy, you know, he'd be dropping them dimes, boy.
Yeah.
And I went in there and he shook my hand. He said, hey, big fella, you know, and he spoke to my mom because he knew my mom. And he said, hey, big fella, you know, one day, you know, you could be mayor. And I said, all right, okay. I shook his hand. Thanks, Coleman Young. Took a picture. I still got the picture of me, my mother, and Coleman Young. And I got in the car. I said, Ma, you heard him? She said, yeah, I heard him, baby. I said, no. Did you hear what he said? He said, one day you gonna be mayor.
That's right.
She said, that's what he said. I said, yeah, that's what he said. And from that day on, I was telling everybody, listen, when I grow up, I'm gonna be mayor. I'm gonna be mayor. They thought I was crazy, little chubby kid from Linwood. You okay, yeah, right. I'm gonna be mayor of the city. Watch. 10 years old, I started saying that. I said it all the way through until I walked in that position one day.
Yeah, no, that's real, man. And you know, I know you said Linwood. Just talk a little bit about maybe some of your upbringing. I know you from Linwood. I know you went to Cass Tech. You know, what was that like?
You know, it was something. Well, first we lived on Lothrop, which was a 2-family flat right on the corner of Lothrop and LaSalle, you know, 1 block off Linwood. Our church at that time was Shrine of the Black Madonna right on Hogarth. And Linwood. So, and my grandfather lived on Carter. My aunts lived. Everybody I knew lived between Linwood and Dexter, or 14th and Dexter, and the Boulevard and Claremont. So everybody I knew was in that area. So that's the area I was in. That's the area I got my bike took first. That's, that's the area I got my first fight, the first time somebody shot at me. But it was also the first time people loved on me too. You know, that was my community. That I didn't know about the city. When somebody took us, I remember my mother took us on a drive to 7 Mile and we went through Palmer Woods. I thought that was so far away. I thought, you know, that this was like, man, I'm looking at them houses like one day I'm gonna live in like this and this. We used to pick houses, you remember that? That's mine right there. But I didn't know nothing else about the city of Detroit except the Linwood, Dexter area. That's all I knew. Everybody I knew, aunts, uncles, everybody was right there.
No, that's what's up, man. You know, I know that you definitely deeply rooted in the city. Which made that even more dope when you entered office, because it really felt like, you know, this is somebody, this is us. You know what I mean? Everybody's seeing a reflection of themselves in you. So, you know, that was big.
But I could say I saw my reflection in y'all, man. It was, that's why I was so stressful. I think it was, and I understood Coleman Young when I got there, because he was taking a whole city and group of people that he grew up with, that he was there with. You know, he wasn't born in the city, but he grew up in politics with these people. You just want to make sure it works. You know, I was tired of being the butt of jokes around the country. I wanted to make it, I'm tired of this is run down and all that. And so I stressed. I blew up to 325 pounds, high blood pressure, headaches, you know, but I just wanted to get it done for the people. I wanted us to understand that we could play big. We could play big everywhere, all over the world. So,
no, that's right. That's right. So just going back to your first term, like when you first got in, and I always say like this was kind of the golden era for the city of Detroit, the late 90s, the early 2000s. I just remember growing up, you know, during those times, you know, being a teenager and, you know, of course, the early 2000s, we had the Pistons win the championship in 03. You were the mayor. We had the Super Bowl here in 06. We had that crazy blackout too. You were the mayor in 03.
No doubt.
Belle Isle, we still owned Belle Isle at that time.
Cleaned it up too. Got the Grand Prix back.
Got the Grand Prix back, and I just remember being downtown, and although it wasn't as, you know, elaborate as it is right now, it still felt like it was our downtown. We didn't feel like a stranger in our own downtown. And I just remember those days being, you know, some of the good old days in the city of Detroit. What was that first term like for you, and what were some of the things that you accomplished during those times? Because a lot of people talk Kwame Kilpatrick and they talk about all of the negative things, and people tend to forget about all the stuff that you actually made happen in the city, you know, while you were mayor. So I just kind of want to talk about maybe the first term and some of the things that you were able to get accomplished those first 4 years.
It was so stressful because I wanted to do so much real quick, so people understood that we didn't have to be who everybody in the media and everybody in our own media was calling us. And so I took office with $100 million deficit. So it was $25 million in the budget that we were in when I took office in January, which ended that June, and then July 1st, it would start another $86 million deficit. So well over $100 million deficit. So when I came in, it was all about finance. And in the midst of that, we built the first new rec centers in the city, and since the 1960s. We built 6 new rec centers, 36 new parks around the city of Detroit. We totally redid downtown, and 9 city departments, changing the underground utility streets to do campus marshes. Detroit hadn't built a hotel since 1989 when I came in office. We built 6 hotels in the first term that I was there, 3 casino hotels, but you got the Hilton Garden Inn, booked Cadillac, which was a Herculean task, that booked Cadillac, the Statler Hilton, which is there now. And you know, it's just, you know, the riverfront, Detroit riverfront, and people need to understand. I know y'all forget this because they want y'all to forget that was intentional. You know, to make sure that it was not my face on any of this stuff, because they don't want your face. It ain't really about me. It's more about you. You know, because they don't want to include you in the progress of the city of Detroit. But that riverfront, you know, we needed Kresge. Put up $50 million as a match for us to find $5 million outside our budget to match them. They'd give us the 50 and we could fund the riverfront development. And so I called Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick, was in Congress on appropriations. She reprogrammed some money, got us to $5 million in time. We got to $50 million and started doing the riverfront. They've been talking about it. Coleman Young said that he was going to develop the riverfront from bridge to bridge, from the Belle Isle Bridge to the Ambassador Bridge. That was his original thing. And he the one that started downtown development by bringing Mike Ilitch back into downtown Detroit to start all that stuff. So that Main Street development, that's Coleman Young.
Yeah.
You know, Dennis Archer's, the stadiums. You know, I give everybody their flowers, man. I think that one of the problems we have is we don't understand the continuity of all the people that have been in those jobs, that have been working since Detroit was about to go bankrupt back in the 1970s when Coleman Young asked everybody to assess themselves to save the city instead of let's go over to the judge and get bankruptcy. So we did a whole lot that first term. You know, we hosted, we went out and got the Final Four. I had made the pitch to get the Final Four, the National Bowling Tour, the G12 Summit, you know, you name it. We were able to do it. We kept Cobo, and we were able to do the first renovation, stage 1 and stage 2 of Cobo renovation, to be able to get it. To be a world-class place to host the auto show. That's why we were able to keep the auto show. There was a lot, but also Kids Cops Clean kicked in. So we had our lowest crime since the 1960s when you look it up, 2004, 2005, you know, so it was a lot. I believe that the way you deal with crime is not just through policing.
That's right.
You gotta get these youngins something to do, man.
Absolutely.
You know, we said that, you know, from 8 to 3, that's the school time. From 3 to 8, that's the mayor's time. So we put a network of after-school programs together so people can go on this. They probably remember this. Go on the computer, put your zip code in, and find an after-school point, from music to sports to whatever. So my thing was much more geared towards getting Detroiters involved in Detroit. You know, anybody can build a lot of buildings. You really can. I think that what Mike Duggan has done, it's a noble thing, but the foundation was laid by Coleman Young, by Dennis Archer,
and I think
by Kwame Kilpatrick. And I think that's not recognized. What the people of the city don't recognize it. It's like he came in, all of those storefronts in downtown Detroit were there. Even the big Hudson's building that they're building, this tall thing, we had already cleared the site, put the parking lot underground, and now going out to shop for a building. And I'm like geek when I came downtown to see all those storefronts full, to see all those things going up. We were so insistent in having Detroiters a part of Detroit's stuff. 55% of the employees at the 3 casinos, Detroiters. It's a reason why you go into Greektown and MGM and you go into whatever the other one is, Motor City, and you see so many black employees. That's intentional. And so a lot of those things that I think people don't realize are important to make sure the economy of the city of Detroit works for Detroiters, it's real important. Every other city does this. It just so happens that 80-something% of this city is African American or black. And you get into these race discussions when you shouldn't. It's an economic destruction. If the people in Detroit don't work, Detroit doesn't work. And I don't care how much you build, you can't sustain it if the people here don't have jobs and don't contribute to the economy.
No, that's very, very true. And I think that you made a great point in bringing up those foundational bricks in the city, because, you know, I mean, it's just like when you look at somebody who's successful, and you like, oh, they're successful, and you know, so many people, whether they love them or envy them, whatever, they just look at their success, but don't look at, you know, the road to success and the things that had to transpire and lead up to them looking at that successful person. So you do have to look at the accomplishments that was made, you know, from previous mayors and previous administrations to kind of connect those dots. So I think that is something that is extremely important. So yeah, you did all of those great things, man. You should, you know, by the end of that term, you should be probably feeling pretty good about yourself, you know. And then, you know, in come the election for your second term in office in 2006. You had defeated Freeman Hendricks, which some would say was a close race. But, you know, tell us about that. Like, entering into your second term, you know, the next couple of years after you won that second term, kind of, give us that overview of that second term after you won those couple of years.
The second term was the first time, beginning of the second term. We ran in 05. We started the second term January 06. And February 06 was the Super Bowl. So everything in Detroit was going well.
Yeah.
Detroit was looking different. People were hitting a different attitude, different feeling. But I still never really got embraced by the press here. I was just a little too much. I think if I was running in today's time, it wouldn't be that much now since post-Trump.
Yeah. Right.
Politics is just different now. Yeah. They was on the earring all the time, on the Gators all the time, on the kind of suits, hip-hop mayor. Yeah. And then they were in the paper having cartoons of people with gold teeth and chains and stuff talking about this is how I marry. I mean, it's stuff now that it wouldn't be accepted.
Yeah.
But then it was just such a difference in how the typical politician looked versus how I care, big 300-pound dude walking around with the big old suits on.
Yeah.
It was different. And so I think that was something that hurt my opportunities to be able to connect with the press, not with business. I did good, with Roger Penske, Pete Kermanos, Jim Nicholson, John Ricotta, Dan Gilbert. I went out and recruited Dan Gilbert. I didn't want him to take over everything, but I wanted him to be a part of what was going on. But Dan went out. I would show up in Cleveland at the games and everything. He said, "Where you working?" So we got him. We brought him in 2006. He became a part of the business community here. So that was the second term, and that was the first big thing that we did. Comerica Bank, they decided to move out of the city of Detroit, which is, I think, the major issue that happened that really turned this whole thing around. Comerica Bank, without any notice, called the governor first. They called me about 5 minutes later after they got off the phone with her and said, "We're leaving tomorrow."
Yeah, and I this is something I definitely want you to touch on because I feel like this is an important breaking point. You know what I mean? And then what you did leading up to that, I think the people should have an understanding of how this whole thing transpired. So I'm glad you kind of touched on the Comerica. I do want you to further, expand on that.
Yeah, because that was a major issue that people don't see, but it was big. The Comerica used to be Manufacturers Bank, so it's been the city's bank for more than 100 years. We gave them all of our banking business. The city of Detroit banked with Comerica exclusively. And Comerica, when I got in my second term, I understood the job a lot better. I understood the inner workings of it, the finances of it. I asked a lot of questions. I understood bonding. I understood debt management. I understood contracting. And I think most people don't understand the body politic. They understand political campaigns, but they don't understand the job. And they don't understand what a resource and an economic resource the city of Detroit is to drive the economy in Detroit. Most of our family members and parents, you're talking about the water department and public works and the recreation, and they retired, built neighborhoods. They live on Finkel.
That's right.
They live on 7 Mile, 6 Mile. Them people that took care of their loans and all that, the people that told you to get off their grass, they work for the city. That's so it was an engine for people in our community to take care of and have block clubs, neighborhood. I understand how important the city is to the economic engine of the entrepreneurial community. Who knocking down your houses now? Everybody, Bobby Ferguson. Well, who knocking down? They ain't out there. You had 13 black contractors when they did the program. You got 2 now.
Yeah.
And one of those is going away because they just proved that he's not a minority contractor. So it's, for me, all of the stuff I'm about to talk about is all ties back to the economy of the city of Detroit and moving dollars throughout the community here. But I can say this, Comerica, they called and said, "We're leaving Detroit." I'd already had an issue with how much fees they were charging the city of Detroit. They've been keeping our money exclusively. So what I did is said, "Hey, let's go out and see, let's do an RFP and figure out who should be our bank. If they're not our hometown bank and they're not giving us the right fee structure, let's go see." Boy, look here. You would have thought I said, let's go cut off the right arm of everybody at Comerica. Right. It was terrible. And, it was like a open rebellion. And, some of the editors from the papers and the news media were on their board. You had influential people on that board. And at the end of a whole process where banks came in to interview, And they didn't put their best foot forward because they didn't expect us to change our bank. But other banks came in, and we did. We changed our bank. And we partnered a bank with our black bank at that time, which was First Independence, Don Davis. And one day, Don Davis got an $84 million deposit into his bank from the city. Man, listen, that was the single largest deposit in a black bank that we've ever seen in this country at that time. And that man helped us do more parks. He helped us do neighborhood stuff. He started small business and did microloans. A lot of the work that we did in Livernois 7 Mile, and all these different things that people are talking about now. 7 Mile, Livernois, Chalmers and Jefferson, a lot of these corridors that you see growing up, that started then. And, you know, it was a great thing for the city, but the powers that be were upset with me. How dare he move that kind of money? Now, $84 million to Comerica is like me and you paying $10. It's not big. So it's the principle. And after that, articles changed. You know, you got all navigators, all kind of. It was the cartoons and all kind of stuff started, and it was really, really crazy. Channel 7 picked up Steve Wilson at that time, who was assigned to me. ML was assigned to me. And, you know, I got one of my friends, she went to FAMU, she was over there at Channel 4. She came to me and said, you know, listen, you're going to be on the news every day. She was like, you know, they watching everything. They had private investigators to follow us. They did all kind of stuff. But that's when it just kind of turned treacherous. And I can't point to anything else except for the fact that they all supported Freeman Hendricks too. The entire corporate apparatus supported him. The Chamber of Commerce, that it was the first time in a mayoral election that the television media endorsed the candidate, and all 3 stations endorsed him. And so for me to have people power was dangerous. It's kind of like that part in Malcolm X. That's too much power.
Too much power. I mean, you know, you got all, because I always tell people there's 2 forms of power in the world. It's either you have financial power or you have people power. And then the people with financial power is always trying to buy the people power.
That's it.
So, you know, it's always that type of war. But just to, you know, get that bigger insight, you know, taking $84 million from, you know, a Comerica Bank and then putting it in a black bank, and then literally things change overnight, you know. So just in that mindset, March 24th, 2008, you know, what does this date mean to you?
I don't know. I know 2008 was that was a monster year, but I don't know March 24th.
So March 24th, 2008, you know, this is when you were hit with the state charges. So in March 2008, you were hit with state charges for perjury after a host of text messages were released. You were also charged with obstruction of justice, misconduct in office. In this case, you took a plea to obstruction of justice and resigned as the mayor in September 2008. You were sentenced to 4 months in jail and was released on probation, I think serving about 99 days or so. Take us through this time.
This was the toughest time in my life before 2012 and 13. I'd never been through anything like that. It was the most embarrassing thing for me that I betrayed my wife, my then wife, and my children. So I had to take my then 12-year-old sons. We went to Belle Isle. Jelani and Jaleel, we went to Belle Isle because I knew it was coming out in the paper the next day. And we went to Belle Isle, and we had a conversation. I said, they're gonna say some stuff about your dad in the paper and all in the news. It's about to go crazy. And this was before March and the indictment. This was just when they were releasing the text messages. I actually had to take my 2 sons. They still remember this conversation. We actually just talked about it on Christmas. But they loved it because I was straight up with them. Listen, me and Christine, this happened, that happened. I did it, it's true. I disrespected y'all and y'all mama, and from this point on, my job is to protect you. I know I'm supposed to be mayor and do this, but it's going to get crazy. And so if people can imagine having this kind of conversation with a 12-year-old, that's, I counsel men now, who are in rocky positions in relationships, and I can always tell somebody cheating, man. I can just tell it right off because I've been that person. But it was a hard thing to talk to them. It was even that was even more difficult than talking to my then wife Carlita at that time. But it was heavy, and in that particular at that particular time, it was just blood in the water for everybody who wanted to hate me, and said there was a reckless disregard for my children, reckless disregard for our safety, reckless disregard for my then wife. The pressure was crazy. People were in our bushes at the Manuggan. They were trying to have interactions with the police so they can write them up. They were prodding them, hitting them with stuff, and that's when you saw, Officer Mike Martin got into it with Steve Wilson. He was hitting him in the back with a microphone. It was this time period where that old T.I., my life, your entertainment. And so it was a lot of stuff going on at that time that was deeply depressing for my wife and children. But man, them soldiers, man, let me tell you, Jelani and Jaleel, man, because Jonas was too small, but Jelani and Jaleel they turned into some real soldiers, man, in terms of understanding what was going on, talking through it, walking through it, leaning on each other. And then God really kept them. They're doing amazing now, but I think a lot of it is because their ability to just grind and overcome, and they came through that moment. But it was rough, bro. Yeah. It was rough. That was a rough moment for me because I had the whole family. It wasn't that rough again until I actually got sentenced or got found guilty and went to jail in the federal trial, but that was hard. Yeah.
And, going through all of this, when I talk to people about Kwame, and one of the first things that people say, whether they even understand it, know anything about it, he stole money. He stole money. Wow. That's the number one thing. He stole money from the people and the citizens of Detroit. He stole money from the pension funds. He stole money. This is like the number one thing when people talk about Kwame. I just want to give you the space to kind of, respond to, so many people thinking that it was okay for you to be locked up as long as you were sentenced because of you stole money. So I just want to kind of, because I don't think you ever really kind of expounded on this, so I kind of wanted you to talk about that.
And I think y'all got a camera for me, so I'm gonna look right in this joint. Yeah. This was the thing that was most troubling to me, this whole idea of stealing money. I've never been charged with stealing any money. I've never been convicted of stealing any money. I've never been charged of misusing any public funds. I've never been, or convicted, I've never been charged of embezzlement. I've never been charged with that. So that was something started by y'all. You gotta get that, the first thing we gotta do is get that. A lot of this stuff are things that people passed around, but they expected us to do that to each other. So most of y'all have no idea what I was convicted of. If it wasn't stealing money, what is it? Then what is the restitution for? You've never asked the question. You just talk about it in the shop or in the beauty shop, barber shop, on the street, at the family reunion. Man, I ain't never stole nothing from nobody in my life, and I ain't never stole nothing from y'all. That's why I'm sitting in front of this camera right now. Because everybody else that was outside of Detroit, California, New York, New Jersey, bring tears in my eyes sometimes, Florida, anybody that looked at this case, any legal mind, lawyer, scholar, that's why I'm sitting here. It ain't because I knew Trump and all that. We get to that. None of that. Everybody saw how crazy this case was from the beginning. But we couldn't see it because the media was working overtime to have you feel some type of way about me, because if they could separate me from y'all, they could kill me, and then they can kill y'all. Nah, that don't happen in no other community but ours. It wouldn't happen in the Jewish community. It wouldn't happen in the Latino community. Definitely wouldn't happen in the gay and transgender community or bisexual. It won't. Our community, that is the strategy. Separate me from you, and then they can come and get you. This is what I say to that. The other thing you said was the pension fund. Man, I was on 7 Mile. I was at Times Square over there with Al Bartel at his store, and this older guy, and his daughter was there, and he sat down with me. He said, "I was so hurt. I loved you, and you stole money out the pension system." And I said, "What?" And it was the first time I heard it. I had just got home. I never heard that before. Listen, the entire time that I was in office, I fully funded the pension system. Everybody told me, all the economic advisors, all the different folks tell me, don't do it. Don't fund the pension system. Find the money to take that money and find it to do something else, because the pension system is too much. You had a $25 million hole the first year that I went, a deficit in the pension system. I plugged that deficit and paid the money. You had an $80-something million deficit the second year. I paid the money to the pension system. I believe that the people who built this town, who worked 30 years for this city, need to get what we told them they was gonna get when they signed their name on the line. What they did is they took you to bankruptcy court, took your money, and while they was raping you, the rapist told you to blame me, and you did it. I ain't never took nothing from y'all. So I saw this big head joker, man, that worked at the fire department, right? And this dude is smart, man. And he said, well, I know that, but they say because it was you, and that's what the bankruptcy. You know, one of the things that people need to understand, and my case has absolutely nothing to do with the bankruptcy. As a matter of fact, if you don't believe me, look at Judge Edmonds, who didn't like me at all. She wanted me to stay in prison forever. The first thing she said in sentences that none of the issues in this case have anything to do with the bankruptcy. I wanted to clear that up. She said it, the judge. Because I know y'all, have issues. All them folks been telling y'all something on 2, 4, and 7 for all these years. It ain't got nothing to do with the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy was a strategic move to take your city from you. Because under the bankruptcy rules, they don't have to go through city council anymore. They don't even count. They don't have to do certain things in hiring practice. That's why they could take your water department, kick out the employees, bring in contractors from Oakland County. And now the Oakland County contractors from companies that used to have to be it are running the water department, giving jobs to their people. That's why you can go on Dexter and you can see people working from Davison to Joy Road and now find one Detroiter working on the job, not one single Detroiter. That's why. This was never about what you all were made to believe it was about. Now, was I stupid? Did I do some ignorant stuff? Absolutely. I ain't trying to absolve myself from being stupid. We could talk about some of that. But criminal? Absolutely. I ain't been no criminal, ain't never been one.
That's right.
And so I want to, we can have this conversation anytime y'all want to have it. If you're ready to have a truthful conversation so you can get up, because it's your Detroit. It's not mine no more. Yeah. It's your Detroit.
Yeah, no, that's real. And, along with that, I guess some people would say what would be the start of, everybody looking into, whether it be the city, the state, or the feds looking into everything. So many people, this is one of the other things that so many people talk about, is the alleged party at the Manuggan.
Oh, wow.
The question most people want to know, was there a party?
No, there wasn't a party. And well, let me just do that out, because I never really talked about this publicly. I thought it was so ridiculous in the beginning, but we kept it going. I remember I went to my cousin's barbershop on Dexter. They was telling me about it. We was joking about it. What, it was this, it was that. But then it was in the paper. Then it was like people suing about it. 100+ employees from the federal building downtown worked on this. I had the single longest wiretap in the history of the Eastern District, Michigan. Over 140 employees worked on our case alone. Everybody's phone was set. You know how many wires they played at the trial? None. We played 6. So the entire time, You wiretapped me for 12 straight years. I didn't say nothing incriminating. They used text messages to show that Bobby Ferguson said, man, we need to do something about this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, cool. They said in court that I agreed to do a crime. We need to do something about this site, nothing on the crime. It was crazy. They also used the text messages, 140,000 of them, to look and see whether there was a party at any time. They pulled all the entrants from the health systems around here, DMC, St. John's, all of them. They look at all the trafficking. The Attorney General's office in Atlanta, Mike Cox, spent $5.4 million in his office alone to investigate it. ML Eric, who didn't like me at all, he really did. Man, listen, Channel 2 and the Free Press invested so much money to find out something about this, and everybody was chasing a lie, and they all came to the conclusion that it never happened. It was an urban legend. But that wasn't enough for people, because it got to be something, because the niggerization process had already started. Of course, I had to be this. I couldn't be just a guy from the neighborhood that was smart, graduated from school with honors, went to law school, passed the bar the first time. But I'm from y'all, so I dress like y'all. I got an earring in my ear. But that don't make me stupid. Yeah. You know, it don't make me hang with strippers, and that ain't never been my thing. That's never been my thing. Anybody that know me, they know I didn't drink like that. I didn't know. So the thing about it is, for me, it was ridiculous because I know me, but I know you didn't, because they made me who you want, who they wanted me to be. So no, there was no party. We didn't even have. This is the single biggest thing that ended the whole investigation. The party was supposedly between August and November of 2021. I mean, of 2002, excuse me, 2002. Between August and November of 2002 at the Manuggan. During that time, which is the fact that, to ML's credit, this is one that he would put in, nobody lived at the Manuggan. I didn't want to move down there. I liked our house on Leslie. This is how horrible I was. I like living on Leslie and Broad Street. I didn't want to move down there. But the police resources, they would be all over Leslie, and they would come sit out in front because the mayor lived in that house. So everybody thought I lived in the Manuggan. I never even went down there. I only went down to the Manuggan twice. I went in there when we first wanted to walk around and say, oh, it's the Manuggan. And then when Carlita had led like a thing with another woman, Rosalind Taylor, and they started fixing it up. They wanted me to come down and see what they was doing with Jonas's room. Remember, he was a baby at that time, so I went down there to look at Jonas's room. I wasn't at the Manuggan. So all the police that came in, he never was down here. I didn't like going down there. I didn't like y'all knowing I lived down there. I wanted to stay in my house, in my bed. And so when that became a part of the investigation, it was seen that it just never happened, ever. And I had to say this to the family of the woman, Miss Green, who passed away.
We was going.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you did kind of go into that, because I wanted to throw out a couple of names which you never spoke on publicly, and I guess we can lead off with Tamara Green. You know, the family of Tamara Green continues to believe that you had something to do with the death of Miss Green. If her family was watching right now, what would you have to say to her family in regards to, her death and speculations?
I actually want to exclude the kids from this statement, but the adults know. Yeah, they know. They've been trying to get money out of this for a long time, and it's not just deformed, but it's wicked as hell what they poured into the young people. They know, but they had a lawyer, and that lawyer believed that he could figure it out, attach me in some way, but absolutely nothing attaches me to that. Nothing. I mean, it's nothing. It was completely made up. The streets know what happened to Miss Green. The streets know the whole story. This ain't got nothing to do with Kwame Kilpatrick. And the media called it an urban legend. It's worse than that. It's just a horrible lie, and it's unfortunate. I went through several depositions. My then wife went through several depositions. Everybody went through police. Everybody, hospitals, neighbors on the street. And nothing ever came of this thing, but it just continues in our community because we need something, and it's actually proffered by Channel 2, Channel 4. You know, people kind of ease stuff out there on it. And it's just, for me, I just think it's tragic and sad that it worked. You know, it actually worked. And now I think you got more of the messages I get about it now, people who talk with me about it, are white liberal people. And it's interesting that they've kind of taken up this and start fighting about it now. But, you know, no. So to the family, y'all need to stop. And what y'all poured into them young people is strange. You got them all messed up and twisted up. I've never met Miss Green, don't know her, never knew her, never spent no time with it. It wasn't my thing. And I know, you know, because of suits and an earring or something and some gaiters, everybody think that I was hanging around. That wasn't my thing, man. I wasn't no street dude. I've never been a street dude, never been a thug, never hung in that world until I got to prison. You know, it's unfortunate what happened to her, but I don't have anything to do with that.
Yeah. And one thing I do know for sure is the amount of hate that prosecutors and all of these people have for you. If you had something to do with it,
listen, I'd be gone.
They would know it by now.
I've been gone.
For sure.
I would have been gone. It's crazy.
So the second name that I want to throw out there, another name that you never really spoke too much on, Christine Beatty. Could you speak on that relationship? Because essentially this is where the perjury charge came from, and the main charge used in the court of public opinion. Because I remember, like, this was the first thing, like, well, when the text message just broke, it was just everybody loved you until the text messages, and then, you know, it was just the tear down. And it's, you know, in our community in particular, you know, it's always a thing, especially when it's a black man in that position. But, you know, if it's any other man, you know, if it's a white man in that position, they can do all that they want to do on their wife, and everybody, ain't nobody talking about it, the beauty salons or the barbershops. But, you know, the fact that, you know, these text messages came out, I feel like this was really the turning point in the eyes of public opinion, in which they played on and utilized too as well. So I know you haven't really spoke too much about Christine.
Christine and I met in the 9th grade at Cass Tech. Even back then, through the high school years, she was just one of the most talented people that I ever met. She was one of the strongest, smartest people, and she was a leader. It's crazy that people were labeling her like this whore and all that kind of stuff, because everybody who went to Cass know that this was somebody who wasn't having sex till she was married, which is, you know, I throw that out there because that was the reason why, you know, I couldn't like her, you know. At Cass, you was like, what? You ain't? So that was foreign to me at that time. And so Chris helped me. I brought her in to help me on my first campaign. Even before that, when my mother was running, I asked her to help me out. We was just cool. It wasn't no lovey-dovey, wasn't no romantic, nothing. Wasn't none of that. And she was just we was just cool. And she helped me out on the campaign. And then she helped me out in my state rep campaign, and then became my chief of staff in Lansing. I think she's one of the best campaign managers that we ever had in the city. She ran both of my campaigns for mayor, all of my state rep campaigns. I don't think it's anybody better in the state. I hate the fact that I messed her up. You know, that's the thing that I despise the most about anything about the city and all of that with her, is that I messed her up. That what started between us should have never been happening. But there's some people out there that understand this. When you overstressed, when you done blew up, high blood pressure, everybody's against you in the world, and there's somebody that's in the foxhole with you. You had this mixed up thing where you changed something that was a genuine friendship that was producing positive fruit into this horrific thing that really tore down what you could have been building for years. And so I understand that damage, but I take all the responsibility and ask the people not put that on her. You know, I think men need to be men in those situations. Be like, hey, wait a minute, stop. You know, hold on, we're not doing this. And I just didn't have the maturity to do that. Plus, I was inclined to sin, and so that was a horrible thing. But basically, she was just a very talented, bright, amazingly gifted campaigner and political strategist. She worked hard in her position. I don't believe you can find a person within city government to say that she had that because she was in this some kind of, no. She did her job, she did her work, she negotiated with unions, she was able to bring a whole lot of stuff into a lot of those accomplishments were due to the leadership that she showed in that job.
Detroit's very own Kwame Kilpatrick. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Nothing is more important than a neighborhood. No politics, big business, no celebrity status. The neighborhoods are the real Detroit. The neighborhood is the heartbeat and the soul of the city. So hug thy neighbor, love thy neighbor, and look out for one another. It's a new era in Detroit, and this time around, we standing on neighborhood business.
Sirloin Champagne, the #1 rated zero low sugar champagne in the United States. And guess what? You deserve it.
This neighborhood business. Come on now, you know what we doing. This neighborhood business. We out here every day with it, all day, every day. This neighborhood business. Where you at? What you doing? We standing on neighborhood business.
Welcome back. So let's pick up where we left off. So from 2008 over the next few years, you were dealing with all these charges from the city and state, and then boom, here come the feds.
Man.
On December 14th, 2010, you were indicted on new corruption charges. They hit you with a 38 charge indictment ranging from fraud, extortion, bribery. On March 11th, 2013, you were charged with racketeering, extortion, mail fraud, tax evasion, and sentenced to 28 years in prison.
Yeah.
28 years fed time, man.
Yeah.
What was your first thought? Like, what was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard that? And then what was the experience like, you know, the years that followed?
That's the first time that I truly experienced the Spirit of God. That was the first time. When Judge Edmonds was even reading the sentence, she didn't really even say, if you read the her sentence memo now, it's nothing really in there about the case. It's all pretty much what had been on the news for years. And you cheated on your wife and you lied about it. And so she was talking about that. And I'm standing there thinking at first, like, what does it have to do with what we just did here? A 6-month trial, 60-something witnesses. You know, out of those 60-something, I only knew like 7 or 8 of them. It was people coming in there talking about they've been in my house and everything. It was one of the things that the feds do is those trials are not on television. So you don't really know what's going on in there. You really don't. They have to give it to you. The press has to interpret it for you. But when I walked out of it, when I was standing up, I experienced this pouring from my head, down my back, all the way down. And it made me like go out of that room. It was a craziness. I felt the greatest peace I've ever felt before or since. And when she said 28 years, I heard it, but it didn't register 28 years. And so I remember I walked out the courtroom and I just said, no doubt, no fear. And they put that in the paper. And I uttered those words. I don't know, because I heard my family, I heard people crying. And I just turned around, no doubt, no fear, and then left out of the courtroom. And it wasn't an arrogant thing. It was really more of a spirit-filled thing. And so when I went and got to Milan is when I just got crushed, because I realized, and I'm going to be here for a while. Yeah. I knew I wasn't going to do 28 years. I never received that ever one day. As a matter of fact, about 1.5 years after that, I never even told nobody, how many years you got, man? I'll be out of here soon. That's what I used to say, man. And they said, big homie got 28 years. You know, he got 28, man. They done hung that thing on him. So I went to, they shipped me to Oklahoma. I was in El Reno, Oklahoma for about 4.5 years. Went to 4 different facilities over the course of the 39 days short of 8 years. 7 years and 300 and something days. So, but El Reno was the best place for me to be. It didn't matter what they was doing. They always put me in the perfect place to get what I needed to go to get to the next level. And then 4.5 years, I went to school. I was able to go to school, got a job in the chapel, stopped working with young men. You know, remembered I was a lawyer, so I started doing paperwork for different people, writing appeals for folks, and started seeing folks getting love, getting out of jail, getting reductions, and committed my life to, I couldn't win. I was filing the motions for myself, losing everything. The only thing I did win on was the restitution, which most people don't know. And the restitution, just so everybody understand what that is, because they think, oh, why you got restitution if you didn't steal no money? The restitution was given to Bobby Ferguson on a single contract. One contract, the Macomb County Interceptor, which was a $56 million contract. The government surmised that because an intricate scheme was used by me and him to get him a subcontract, that the city paid extra this much money, so the restitution he has to pay, and we're joint and severally liable for that restitution. That's where the restitution came from. And it comes from, so anyway, they didn't do an accounting of that. They didn't assign the money, so I attacked it. So it went from 9.6 million down to 4.7. I filed again. It went from 4.7 to 1.5. I filed a letter again that said I don't owe 1.5. The appellate court kept agreeing with me. There was no loss in this case. There's no stealing. There's no missing money. There's no in this case. And so now my restitution, just so you all know, is about $154,000. So I got 28 years for what they say now is $154,000. I still say they wrong. I zero. I've been saying it's zero since I left the courtroom. So $154,000 is a lot closer to zero than 9.6. So I just want y'all to know, he won't pay it. That was the thing to get y'all mad at me again. He won't pay it. I don't owe it. I don't owe it. If I came up to you and say, hey, give me that $50,000 you owe me. The first question you asked me, $50,000, what I owe you $50,000 for? When I ask, what I owe you $4.7 million for, show me. They put in the paper that I don't want to pay. I get to ask, what is this tied to? But that's all right. We fighting, and I don't let it bother me when y'all get mad at me because y'all say I got y'all, but I just know the truth, and that's just it. But it was rough. It was rough being away from my sons. They went through hell and high water. My older sons left school, left home. They had never been in the hood in their life. Got an apartment, got some money from my mother, got an apartment in the hood, Oak Cliff in Dallas, and I had to get them back in school. I had to find a guy in Dallas to drive them to Oklahoma to come sit down with me, man. And we cried together, talked together. I got them back home, got them in school. They got master's degrees. They teaching and coaching. They doing their thing. So even the entire time, God was smiling on us. But it was rough. It was rough. It was rough. My mother, the biggest thing that happened, she lost her seat in Congress. And my mother is an old school politician, and it was just bad because she just loved serving this community. And when that was over, she didn't know what she had been doing it for 34 years. So how does she stop that? And so that's the thing that hurt me the most. I think I cried in the cell like a baby when that happened because it was my fault that my mother had that. I took that on my own head. So it was rough. A lot of rough things happened during the course of that. But I knew all the time that I wasn't walking out of there 28 years later, that something would happen, that God would intervene, and I'd walk out that place free.
What were some of the, I guess, positives that you got from, incarceration? I know, Ben, you had a conversation about the first time you ever heard about New Era Detroit, per se.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So I had never heard of New Era Detroit, because when I left, I'm at Fort Dix, and at Fort Dix is a prison that, everybody had their phone, they can find something out, it's one of them spots. And so the Detroit guy, he was actually from Southfield. He was like, you up on New Era? They doing their thing. And I'm like, New Era? Who is New Era? You don't know Zeek? Man, listen, Zeek doing his thing, man. I'm telling you, man, you better watch. So I went. He wanted to show me, so I saw y'all out on the street. I said, man, who are these dudes? So I watched a couple videos and saw what you all were doing, man. I was so proud, man. I was so happy that it was still manhood existed, you know, and you know, because I just felt like everybody was laying down for their story, but then, man, to see you all standing up for children, and you in particular, just how hard and raw you came on the thing. I said, man, this young brother right here is a bad dude, boy. So I heard about you from another guy in prison who's out now, and he just thought it was an amazing thing to see real black and authentic manhood standing up for the community. And I was just, man, one day I'm gonna meet that brother. So here we are.
Here we are today.
Here we
right?
are. Yeah.
Here we are today.
Yeah.
2021. What does that mean?
Man, look at here, man. I was in a solitary confinement cell. I've been in there for 225 days. And it was January 19th. And this guy, Fred Bradley, he came. He was from Texarkana, Arkansas. And he came, he said, big homie, man, they just had some stuff on CNN. Chump say he about to do a bunch of clemencies tonight before we leave. He said, you in there, big homie. I said, all right, from your mouth to God's ears. So, so you know, I'm all day, man. I'm hitting the door. Hey, Fred, you heard anything? He was like, no, we ain't heard nothing. So he locked down. At midnight, they do a midnight count in the feds, and he was coming by. The officer, I hit the door, Ortiz, man, listen, I just got a commutation. That's what I told him. I just got a commutation. He said, who told you that, Kilpatrick? I said, listen, if you go check the computer, I just got a commutation for real, just check it. I'm just getting this unction, you know. And he said, who told you? I said, the Lord told me. He said, oh, Kilpatrick. He come back at 1 in the morning, open the shoe door, which they ain't supposed to do. He said, man, who told you that? I said, I told you, the Lord told me. And he pulled out the Free Press and News. And it said, man, Kilpatrick gets commutation from the president. I got the front pages of both papers. And it was crazy that the same papers that announced my condemnation, Kilpatrick won't get out until he's 70 years old. Yeah. They had to announce I was leaving. I like that moment. Yeah. You know? And so he showed me, he said, read it and take it with you. And that's how I found out. I found out in the cell. I sat down on the bed, I laid out on the floor, man, prayed, thank God. And then the warden came at 6 in the morning. He said, Kilpatrick, I'm getting you out of here quick and quiet. Your press already called and they coming down here. I said, well, they coming now. I said, you don't know my press. They be here in a minute now. And he said, I'm gonna get you out of here, man. I was sitting in my sister's house, man, and hugging my mother, man, at 2 o'clock that afternoon. Went to the airport. My first time in the airport in almost 8 years. Got to the airport, the Delta lady was like, come here. I was like, what I'm supposed to? I ain't got no ticket or nothing. She was like, we have it for you. So they had the ticket. They gave me the ticket. I get on the plane, I come. It land in Atlanta, and that's when I saw my sons, and y'all probably saw that part when they saw me. And then I went to the house, man, and that was January 20th, 2021. So we still moving, we still grooving. A week later, I asked Leticia to marry me. She'd been riding with me for 3 years at that point. Yeah. And she said yes. You know, she was crazy enough to say yes to me. And since then, new life has come. You know, I have Lathan now. He's 14. He was 10 when we got married. And then King and Kinsley. So I had everybody, Jelani, Jalil, Jonas, Lathan, King, and Kinsley all at the house during Christmas, man. It was a moment, a miracle moment, because you know, for a lot of years, I was sitting there and, man, one day, man, it's not gonna be like this. Yeah. And this is that day. It's not like this.
Yeah. So with that, let's talk Trump and, you know, and your clemency. How did this happen? Because, we know Trump got you out of prison, right? Yes. But how did this play come about for real? Like, because it's crazy to me how people question your support for Donald Trump when he took a pen and gave you back 20 years of a 28-year sentence. Yes. So I just want to talk about like that connection and stuff people really don't know, you know what I mean? And once again, people, you know, love to speculate and talk. I can't say at all that somebody freed me from a 28-year sentence 20 years early that I'm not going to be on board or support with whatever it is that they got going on, man. So I guess kind of talk about that. I just can't understand how people could even be mad, at that connection. But I do want to, kind of talk about how that even came about, because, a lot of people don't know.
Let me, because I think it's a lot of rumors out there, and I know it's hard for some people to believe anything outside of something, got to be some hookup. I never met Donald Trump. I never was a Republican, so I wasn't on their side. As a matter of fact, my man, what's my man on CNN? Van Jones. I was talking to him in prison. I was talking to him. I said, "Hey, Van, man," because he was getting in the White House to these roundtable discussions. I said, man, get to the press. He said, man, he's a white Republican. He would never why would he give a black Democrat a commutation? I said, because God in it, right? And he was like, oh, it was, so he wouldn't even help me, People say my mama talked to Trump and all that. My mother didn't know Trump, never had a conversation with Trump ever. She talked to Obama, and she asked Obama in the White House with Reverend Brumfield with her from Oak Grove, asked Obama, do you see what they're doing to my son? He said, I know exactly what they're doing, and walked away from him and left the office and left her standing there. So everybody, oh, Obama, he couldn't do it. Y'all know now the power of the presidency. He did it. He got a transgender army person translator out of there with a 28-year sentence who only did it 6.5 years. He gave him a pardon, and then wrote a recommendation that person go to Harvard. So we can't do this anymore. We got to stop this. We got to stop all of this. And he ain't want to do it, and that's his prerogative, But don't give me the whole all the other stuff. So Donald Trump. All the people that went to talk to Donald Trump, I'd never met before in my life. I never had met Jared Kushner. I never met Jerron Smith. I never met Alice Johnson. I never met Alveda King. Never met Angela King. All the people that were going to talk to him, some kind of way, some people got them some information about me, and they, by the grace of God, decided to advocate for me. There was a meeting in the Oval Office on January 12th. And I've heard about this meeting from Alice, because that's my girl now, and I've heard it from Jared Kushner, and the White House counsel was there, and this is how crazy this is. I was praying for 200 of those 225 days in that hole. The heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord, and like the rivers of water, he could turn it whichever way he pleases. Lord, turn President Trump's heart towards me. Never met this man. He calls Alice Johnson, the president, and says, hey, now you got to remember, this is just after January 6th. The country going crazy. The windows busted out. People been peeing all on the House floor. They calling for Trump's resignation. He calls Alice Johnson to the Oval Office to come and talk to her because he's ending his term. He wants to see if there's anything he can help her with. Jared Kushner's in the meeting, White House counsel. She goes and she asked about me. A woman that has never met me before said, God put you on my heart. I couldn't sleep the night before, and I had to say your name. Now listen, I'm trying to tell y'all what happened. So she asked this man, he asked her, this is the president of the whole United States, saying, what can I do for you? She gives him 2 folders, one for me and one for another person she was advocating for. You can help them with a commutation. Now by that time, Jared Kushner had heard my name from so many different people. Craig DeRoche, I do know him. He was former Speaker of the House here. He had met with Jared Kushner unbeknownst to me and asked for some relief for me. Pete Carmanos, I'd known him. He had met with the president unbeknownst to me until it was an article in the paper that said that he went to Trump on my behalf. So all of these people were doing this, not talking to me, not working with me, and they were asking that I get some relief, and the sentence was too long. And so I wanted people to understand that I'm not ashamed in who I believe. I need y'all to understand that, because that is how that happened. And so the White House counsel, when Alice says that, says, over my dead body will he get out of there. We don't want him. We don't support him. And she stood over Alice, and Alice stood up. And so they were literally arguing in the office in front of the president, sitting at the Oval Office. And he said, wait a minute, sit down, ladies. And he looked at Alice, and this is what he said. I'm going to help your guy. That was just that. Now, the other person she brought in had life plus 25. The White House counsel didn't have no problem with him. She had a problem with me. And he said, I'm going to help your guy. That was on January 12th, about 7 in the evening. This, if you look at this commutation that I got, it's signed January 13th at 8 something in the morning. So he just kept his word. They left out the office. He kept his word, signed the commutation the next morning. They embargoed it to the 20th. Now this is how crazy this is too, Zeek. I was in the cell January 15th. And I got the phone. You know, you get the phone every 30 days when you're in the SHU. And so they put the phone in the cell. I called Leticia. And I said, hey, baby, I'm going crazy that day because I'm trying to figure I want to get up out of here, right? And she said to me, because she had been faithful the whole time, just where we was working it out. And our agreement was that I would be out for her 40th birthday. Her 40th birthday was on January 28th, 2021.
Wow.
And I said, I'm gonna be out for your 40th. We've been saying that since 2018. Yeah. And she said, even if you're not out for my birthday, we're just gonna keep believing God. I said, no, we're gonna stay faithful all the way to the end, blah, blah, blah. And I was going crazy. The phone, if y'all know the federal phones, they do that, it's over with. I hung up the phone, I was going opposite that cell, like, man, you know, you can't call back. And I just sat there and prayed. Well, my commutation was signed on the 13th, and this is a message to you. I'm in there going crazy on the 15th, and it's already done. It's already done. They just holding the announcement. I'm in there begging God, laying on the floor, come on, God, let me out. And I just want people to understand, listen, man, it's when he says he's gonna do something for you, all we supposed to do is wait and just believe him, and that's what he did. And when I got out, I tried to meet President Trump. Jelani Jalil Jonas said, man, we got to go say thank you. You know, so I tried to get him for 3 years. I couldn't get to him. Another thing, real quick, Costco. I'm in Costco in Detroit on December 23rd in 2023. I'm in Costco. And we were deciding whether we were going to move back to Detroit or not and all this kind of stuff. So we said, let's just go spend Christmas in Detroit with the family in Detroit. And so we came up here, got an Airbnb, and stayed in for Christmas. So we go up to Costco to get some groceries. We go to Costco. It's a white guy in Costco. He has on shorts. It's like 6 degrees outside. He got on shorts, a golf shirt, and a tan. And he followed me around Costco, Zeke. I'm like, man, this is one of these guys. So I figured he'd go come out. You Kwame Kilpatrick, you know, I don't know what he's gonna do, but I get it a lot. So I said, hey man, what's up, man? I told him, right, man, what's going on? He said, hey. Hey, you know. I said, man, he said, are you Kwame Kilpatrick? I said, yes, I am, man. How you doing? What's your name? You know, you get a little aggressive. What's your name? You know? And he said, hey, he told me his name. He said, what do you think about Donald Trump? So I told the story that people heard on the news. I said what I feel about him, and it just came to me. I said, you know, my house is on fire. It was ablaze. This firefighter ran in, dragged me out, dragged my wife out, dragged my kids out, and he took off his mask, and it was Donald Trump. How you think I feel about that dude? I said, that's what happened. Yeah. And he said, you know what? Would you like to meet him? I said, I've been trying to meet him for 3 years. Who are you? He pulls out a picture on his phone and shows me a picture from that morning when he was playing golf with Donald Trump. Then I just flew right here. Because my grandkids, I never saw these kids before. They came up, the 2 little girls. He said, I told them I'll spend Christmas with them, so I left the golf course, caught a plane, and I'm here, and we had to get some groceries and stuff. And I said, oh, okay. He said, no, I'm really, we were talking about you on a golf cart this morning. And I said, yeah, I was talking about me. I said, man, I've been trying to thank him. Because he was saying that he hadn't heard from you. I said, okay. They got me a ticket. I flew down to Mar-a-Lago, man, and I spent the day with President Trump. I met him at the golf course that morning, kicked it with him all morning. You know, we went back and forth about politics and different stuff. And then he asked me to stay. I just had a one-day ticket. I was gonna fly there in the morning, fly back. He asked me to stay overnight. He said, can you stay and have dinner tonight at the house? I said, man, you know, you bought the ticket, you know? Right? I mean, yeah, so they changed my ticket and got me a hotel, and I stayed, and I went to Mar-a-Lago, to the house, and I met with him privately, and I just appreciated 2 things about him. He wasn't like the guy on TV. And I heard this from Sharpton and other people too. When you meet with him, you know, he's very intuitive. He listens to what you're saying, and he asks you questions based on what you're saying. So he knows numbers, he knows different stuff. It was tricky. He's smart dude. It's not the Donald Trump that gets up at those speeches is not the one you meet in the boardroom. It's 2 different things. And it was very interesting to see how really smart he was, and how intuitive, how much he knew about the history of Detroit, how much he knew about different people that were there. You know, he talked about Don Barton a lot, and you know, Don, man, he talked about Don, and that was my man. So it was a natural thing, and he could just flow. And I saw him from 10, 11 in the morning to 11 at night, and he never changed. And so when I left there, he didn't ask me to do nothing. He asked me to support and all this kind of stuff. But I knew it was coming at some point. And later on, about a couple months later, he said, would you support our campaign? And at that time, when I jumped on and said I would help you in the campaign, Joe Biden was running. And I need people to understand this. I know I was a Democrat my whole life. I thought Republicans was the devil. So I understand how you feel. But Joe Biden was the worst for our community. You have no idea. I had 3 lifers that were cellies. I couldn't talk to my guys and support Joe Biden. Joe Biden and the Biden crime bill, the enhancements, the 2K1, we could really even talk about some of this sometime, because I think people just talk about the crack law, but you don't understand all the significant issues that changed sentencing forever. It changed prosecutorial discretion. It changed how they tie other crimes to other crimes, how they do conspiracy, the whole issue of ghost drugs. And most of y'all don't even know any of this. Like when I was doing cases, a lot of people doing life, they found no drugs. A lot of people that got life sentences right now, they never found any drugs.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, they put it in the conspiracy, go get 11 guys to sit on the stand and say, I bought drugs from him every week for 5 years and I bought this much. They add it all together. Now it's 15 keys. He gets found guilty of 15 keys, life sentence. And it's happened. That's where we got people right in here in Detroit that got there on the manipulation that happened with the Biden crime bill to put your people away. It was targeted for our communities around the country deliberately, and he said it on the House floor. So there was no way I could support him. And so that's kind of how I felt. And then he talked about what he would do with criminal justice and that kind of thing. And so I went in. I've since I'm just not involved in politics. I just don't feel an unction to be involved. I talked to Zeek about this too. Just what he doing, I think, is more important than being elected. What was going on the community level, and really getting the community to understand that they have the power to change their community from within the community. They don't have to go downtown to do that. Just the people power could do it. And what you're doing, I think, is far more important than what a position of mayor. The position of mayor in Detroit has forever changed.
Yeah, we gonna touch on that. But I definitely want to just ask too, just knowing all of this. So, going through this roller coaster ride of a life that you lived at the age of 55, what are a couple of the most important lessons that you learned from this, and what are you doing now currently, to help push through, your growth and this, I guess what we'll call it, the next chapter of your life?
I think one of the things that I learned is that you can have the cognitive skills, business skills, political skills. You could be brilliant, but if your character doesn't grow and your integrity doesn't grow at the same veracity and profundity as that, it's just a matter of time before you fall. We see it with what's going on with P. Diddy, what's going on with a lot of pastors, what's going on with Kwame, what's going on with a whole lot of people. It wasn't the fact that my work, you have never heard anybody question my work. Never. They try to make you forget it, as a matter of fact. They try to act like I didn't do the riverfront, or didn't do campus marches, or didn't do the hotels, or didn't build the parks, or do Herman Gardens, or do whatever we did. They're like somebody else must have did all that. Now, they attack you with your character or your lack thereof. And so that's one thing. And second thing is, whatever chair you're sitting in is bigger than you think it is. Right now, God forbid, if Zeek does something and falls out of the chair that he's sitting in, more than just New Era would lose. It would, the devastating effect of you losing it, and what kept me on the floor in the cell that first year I was locked up was not being sad about my family. It was the divorce from Detroit. My divorce from Detroit was tougher than my divorce from Carlita. My divorce from you hurt me more than anything has ever hurt me in my life, because, you know, I messed up and y'all kicked me out. And that was like a thing, like, I didn't know who I was without Detroit. I didn't. I'm Detroit, man. What up, though? This is me. This is who I am. I'm a B Detroit. And when I got kicked out, and y'all said we through with you, I didn't know who that was, but I didn't understand how much I hurt you, because I didn't understand how big the chair I sat in. I didn't know that text messages about an affair would be in Abu Dhabi, or they was all on the BBC. I didn't know that if something on Jefferson and Woodward happened with Kwame Kilpatrick, and that's the key with Kwame Kilpatrick. That's why I say your chair. If it happened with Mike Duggan, it ain't gonna be on BBC. It ain't gonna be in Abu Dhabi. Even if it happened with the new people coming in, it's not gonna be like that. It's just you, Zeek, y'all larger than life. If you, as the owner of that barbershop, that you gonna be on the news front page. If you, as the person that works at GM Ford and Chrysler, they put you on the front page. I didn't understand how big the seat was. So what I do now is I try to help people understand how big they are, so they understand their responsibility. You bigger than you think you are, and I work with a lot of child molesters and stuff in prison. And, you know, a lot of those guys, they flock to the chapels in prison to try not to get beat up and stay there all day and everything. But I met these guys. They was business owners, principals, cops. Most of them had money, but they had this sickness that they couldn't get rid of, and they couldn't stop. And so they was raping 7-year-old girls and molesting little boys and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, sick thing they got. And when it happened to him, the CEO of the largest construction company in Ohio, who thought he was way better than me and you, you ain't nothing but a gut bucket, sorry, this, blah, 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 blah. And that's how it was for him, but he never knew how big his chair was. He thought he can get away with it. And what I'm telling you, that's the extreme. You can't get away with it. At some point, nobody gets away. And what I need to tell you is that I love to talk to you. I told you about the child. I don't have no judgment, because I've been through it. And I like to help people understand that it's more to life than that broad you chasing. It's more to life than dude you keep running up in his house. It's more to life than that little money you putting to the side or whatever. Listen, your chair is bigger than that. And when you fall, you won't believe how it affects your children, grandchildren, your community, the people at the school, the people at work, because somebody looks to you for leadership. They look to you for inspiration. And when you fall, a whole lot of them fall. And so that's what I've learned. And that's been the most pressing, the most profoundly sad and depressing part that I had to work through to even sit on this couch today. You know, I went to counseling in there, and my counselor, she was a beast. You know, Miss B, she was about 6'2", about 250 pounds. She didn't play, but she really forced me to deal with some issues that I had inside of me. And that's what I'm trying to get people to do now. You know?
Let's say you never were convicted of any crimes, you finished out your time in office. Do you think Detroit would be in a better place than it is right now if you continued on your terms as mayor? And then also moving past that, because so many people, you know, before Obama was looked at, you know, as a potential president of the United States, people looked at Kwame Kilpatrick first. So do you think that had all of this never played out, that you could have been, you know, possibly one day the president of the United States?
I could answer that one quick. I don't know, because I didn't never want that. I don't know if I could. You know, I might have to. They might have to get me up out of there a different way. Not prison, just with that AR. You know, so I just don't know. That's not a position that I've ever desired. I think that it's a management position. Like, you know, when you mayor, you be in charge, and that's the fight. Because other people want to be in charge.
That's right.
But I'm the executive. That's just, and they end up convicting you for being in charge. I believe that Detroit would be so better. Let me just say that. It would be better in a lot of ways because Detroiters would be better.
That's right.
I don't believe you can have a better without Detroiters rising too. It can look good, but it could be a mile wide and an inch deep. You know, Detroiters have to be better, and better meaning access to education, access to nursing programs, access to construction and trades, access to college and community college. That all needs to be tied together. Access to government, like they should feel like I can walk up there to 11-4 and talk to the mayor. You should feel like a kinship. Even if you don't want to go, it should be a kinship. This is a big small town anyway. Detroit like a big small town. You know, we were related to one another, so your son knew about me. Your grandson, like you said, you was in high school, you could look and say, and then somebody at your school would say, hey, I'm gonna get Kwame to come over here. And you know, I was coming. It was a thing of, that's how I felt about Coleman Young. From the biggest house in Detroit to the smallest house in Detroit, it was a black person. And I never grew up with a concept of you know, black people just, you know, they don't do nothing. They work, they just poor and black. No, we doctors. At one time, Detroit had more black lawyers than any other city in America, more black law firms than any city, more black architectural, engineering firms, more black doctors, more black dentists. At one point, this was the mecca of black entrepreneurship, black professionalism. And so, you know, that's the Detroit that I had in my head. The elected officials, the people in the Senate, Ray in the House, Ray and Morris Hood, and all of those, Barbara Rose Collins, and all those people that came around. It was like, for me, I was in there like this, like, wow, because I saw black dynamism everywhere, so it made me better. So I didn't walk around with my head down. When I went in the room and it was full of anybody, I felt like I can win. When I went to law school, it was only 5 black people in the class out of 50, 60 people. But I'm coming out of here. I don't know. I'm past this because that Detroit thing I had. I always say this. We got a little Detroit chip on our shoulder, and what I see around now is that chip is gone. So that means it ain't better. It's still alive. The remnant is here. But that's that thing that you have. You know that, man. It's our town, and so I think it'd be better because Detroiters would be better.
So we're kind of sticking in that arena. You know, what's your thoughts on the current state of the city and how you feel? How do you feel about, like, you know, the job that the current mayor is doing at this particular time, and Mike Duggan?
When I first came to Detroit, and being, you know, 100 as I've been with the people tonight, I rode down Woodward. I rode through my old neighborhood. I got the car. Tisa gave me the car, and she went to get her hair done. And I said, I'm about to just drive around. So I drove. This is my first time in Detroit in more than 8 years. And I'm coming down. I came down the Lodge and came up on the boulevard, went down Lothrop, Linwood, and just going on. And I'm like, man. And I came over to Woodward and went down Woodward. And I was very impressed. So the Midtown Development, it started. The Midtown Development Association, the Midtown Development, the joint stuff with Wayne State. So a lot of stuff that I broke ground on was built. And I'm like, wow, a lot of the technology stuff that we were discussing and putting together, it was built. And I'm like, wow, this is really nice. And went down and I saw the stadium for the first time. And I didn't even know at that time the Pistons was downtown. This is how for 12 years, I didn't watch no Detroit news, didn't read no Detroit papers because I had to really clear myself of that, you know. I tried to, you know how you do when you get divorced. You know, I don't want to hear nothing about dude. You know, I don't want to hear nothing about her. You know, and so that's how it is. But going downtown, I said, this is beautiful. And on the cell phone, I had my old numbers. I called Mike Duggan's cell phone, and he picked up. And I said, Mike, what up? You know, hey, who is this? This is Kwame. I said, man, I'm riding downtown, man. It's looking good down here, man. Looks like you're doing a great job. And he was like, man, thank you. And all this kind of, we ended up meeting. And I saw that, but I hadn't seen any people. I hadn't seen anything but the look. So I get the impression that I think most people get when I first come in. It's definitely grown. It's definitely gotten shinier. There are definitely more people down walking and making it a walkable downtown as much as they can. Get more residential units, stuff that was in the plan and it's being fulfilled. But then I got a chance to go to the neighborhoods and talk to people. And the disconnect between downtown and the neighborhoods is something that I've never seen before because this was our city. So that feels something like Chicago. I don't know if you know people in Chicago.
Oh, for sure.
They don't feel like they can even go down there. Like you tell them you was on the Miracle Mile and all that. They don't go down there.
Yeah. And that's in a lot of black cities though.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Dallas, it's the same way.
Yeah, they downtown. It's just they disconnected.
They totally disconnected.
And it didn't used to be like that for us in the city. Like
That's
I just
the
saying,
difference.
like
That's the
we
difference.
used to go downtown and be down. I remember being downtown on Jefferson, and from 75 or 375 where you come up all the way to Belle Isle, bumper to bumper.
Everybody,
nothing but us.
But nothing but love.
Nothing but love.
Nothing but
we had a
love. What's
good
up,
time.
man? Y'all turn it on GPR. They got
yeah.
Man, it's like
them days are long
and that soul. One reason I do like Atlanta a little bit, just a little bit, because Atlanta, boy, woo-wee. But, living there for 3 years, it was something now. It was 3.5 years. Atlanta's something, but they gonna be Atlanta.
Yeah.
The thing I like about it, they gonna be all the way Atlanta.
That's right.
So we Atlanta, so whatever. But I love the fact that they celebrate their culture.
Yeah.
And here, even when I was mayor, it was like this rush to go look at what Chicago is doing. No, we need to be Detroit as we can be. And it seems like we're getting that now with some of the nonprofits that come in, people that are not from Detroit. They understand how smooth and how dope Detroit is. So they exploiting the Motown stuff. They're exploiting the music. But we could have been doing that the whole time. And I think that's the thing that troubles me, that in a city like this, we got the same connection to downtown as Dallas, not Portland. Seattle. Come on, man. This was the only place in America to me, and I've been all over. I've been to all these states. I've probably been to 40 states at least, where we just was connected in a way that other people wasn't. I was a kid and felt like I was connected to Coleman Young. I was a kid, I was in the house, and even if I wasn't like an Archer guy, I knew I can go talk to Dennis Archer. I knew that I can get Freeman, I can get somebody on the phone. It's just different. And different don't necessarily mean bad, but for me as a native Detroiter, it's a whole different feeling inside that I get. It don't feel like my Detroit.
So with that being said, we are in the middle of a big election this year, so it will be a new mayor this year.
And both of them from Detroit.
Yeah, both of them from Detroit. We got Kenlock and Sheffield. Who do you think, if you have a thought on the next mayor, if you even have a thought on it? If you don't, that's cool too.
I ain't ran from a question all night. Here you go.
You right.
It's the one boy. Barry, I'm on the Barry standard. Got him. So listen, I would say this. One of the things is that Detroit has a different kind of mayoral election, and Atlanta, this race will be over already because you got more than 51%. You be the mayor, but in Detroit, you have a new election for the general, and so I can't go nowhere without people being connected to the councilwoman. I can go places where they're not connected to Solomon, so he has to do some work there. They know him, but they know what he's doing with the church, but they're not connected to him. Like he hasn't touched them yet. And so he has a lot of work to make up between now and November. And I just, whoever wins, man, they got a Herculean task because they're not going to be Mike Duggan.
And that money up out of here too.
And also the eyes of the press turned back to the mayor's office. I watch the news now. Listen, it could be 6 shootings that night. Mike Duggan ain't on the news. Man, listen, if it was 2 shootings, they was finding me. What do you think? On the west side. I'm like, wait a minute. Go talk to the chief. They go talk to the police. What they need to understand is after this, they coming to talk to you.
No, for sure.
So they have to set their government up not how Mike has his set up. It's going to be a different way of doing things, and it's just what it is. And they have to prepare for what it is.
Big difference, man, in my eyes, between white politicians and black politicians, and then really having that understanding that we just can't move like them. They can do those things because you hear it all the time. Well, it's the same stuff that they doing, and why it may be true. We just don't have that luxury of making those type of mistakes or moving like that and thinking that we're gonna find a certain level of success.
And what I talk to people about now, and I tell people been in Louisiana talking to the candidates and different folks, don't even think about whether it's the white person or the black person or how they treat them. Just you. This is we're gonna put this just for you, Mr. Such and Such.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
That's right.
You can't. You have to have the kind of maturity, the kind of courage and integrity to be who you are right here. You got to stop cheating. The old girl got to let her go. See, we got to have different kind of conversations. Those kind of conversations, they don't really happen a lot in other places. But you can't go to the bar no more every night. You can't. And so even the old school politicians and how they did it, like Coleman and them, they used to hang out at TULC, man, get a drink and, all this kind of stuff, buddy battle and all this guy. I used to be 10, little fat kid in there watching them. Man, this is good, listening to all the grown folks' conversation. But that's over. With Larry Lewis and all the guys and the state reps and the senators come in there, you can see how disjointed everybody is.
But everybody got phones now. Everything's being recorded. There's no private space no more. So you gotta move. You gotta move like that.
I heard Steve Harvey say that the other day on the radio. He said, "I grew up different. Everybody keep talking about you did it." But that was in 1992. It wasn't like this. You can't do it. And that's the thing. I mean, when I go now, I'm at the mall. We was just everywhere I go, somebody doing this. I'm talking about now. I was just at a car dealership looking at a car. There was a girl like this. I saw her. I went over there. I said, "What you doing, wife?" "I'm just sorry. Can I have a picture?" I said, "What you filming me for, though?" Right. But that's the thing. It's like I'm watching you. I'm watching you, and that's. Everybody is so now nervous because you could be canceled just by something you was doing that was not that much. Or if canceled. You could be outed on the regular old news on something that was just matter of fact. So I wish them the best. I'm praying for them both because, all that glitters is not gold. And the work will begin in January. And they'll see that there's a difference in the job. There's a real difference in the job. And so here's the other thing they're going to have. Mike Duggan will be running for governor. And so while they're mayor, he going to have all the focus on all the stuff he did and how it's messing up. Now I'm trying to tell you. So they got to prepare for how they going to position themselves in that because of course, the corporate community going over there. And so it's going to be a very interesting thing. You got to see two, 3 moves now. But if I was running the city now, I'd never got in trouble. Never. But you got to go through it to get the wisdom to be able to do it right.
And just like you said, man, we got to make sure that that we keep that focus on it. And both of them, 2 very good people, 2 people that I got a lot of respect for. So it will be a good race to the end. But man, look, I can't say enough about, you coming here and taking time, especially because, you don't speak on a lot of this stuff, man. And, me and you had this conversation is really how we got here today. I really want to credit you for all of this because, people been trying to tell me, well, you should do something, where you sit down, you talk. I'm doing that. I'm a worker. I'm in the streets. I've never been like a podcast, talk show type person. And, but I've always had an understanding that, some real conversations need to be heard. And especially when we talking about our people, our communities, and most importantly, our neighborhoods, man. So I appreciate you, for taking this time to be open with the community and open with the people, whether people look at this and say, that changed my mind on some things, or whether people say, I still feel the same way. It's good that you were able to get your side of things out because, like you said, over the past, decade plus, it's just been hammer from media, from, everybody else. And Kwame Kilpatrick never had that voice, to say, okay, well, this is what I did, this is what I take accountability for, and so on and so on. So I appreciate you for allowing me to be, one of the first people that really get a real, interview when you really talking about some stuff and being open, man. So I appreciate that. I can't thank you enough. So as we wrap up, I do have one more question I want to ask you Kwame Kilpatrick, and you can talk to the people out there. What is your message to the neighborhood?
Let me answer that question second. I'll just say to you that even doing this podcast,
And you can talk to the people.
that Zeek doing this podcast and you know, moving New Era into a new position. This is a new position. It's another way. Jesus said knowledge will increase. He said it's better that I go because, you know, I'm gonna live in you now. You could do more. Zeek can do more work in here than he can just go into one community. He's touching several communities at one time. And so as his position continues to grow, he's gonna have a whole lot added to him, man. And it's gonna be a great thing for you because, you know, you had to get in the street, you had to build your credibility, you had to make the mistakes, you had to go through the certain things. And so now it's just another part of that journey. And what I say to the neighborhoods out there is, same thing I was talking about with individuals. You have no idea. I say it like this before. I said, people have come into your community and showed you the value of your neighborhood. You know, just 10 years ago, people was talking about you can go to Detroit and get houses for $100. Now in some of the communities that have been labeled as some of the worst areas in the past, people spending $500,000 for houses, like on the north end. You have no idea the value that you have in your neighborhood, in your home. That's your spot. And if you don't stand up for your place, somebody else will. And now, because prices were driven down by people's mouths and people's understanding and people's rhetoric, now prices are coming up and you ready to go instead of putting a stake in the ground and say, this is my spot and I'm gonna stay. And I'm gonna make it something that not only I could be proud of, but people that come after me will. I simply say to you, understand your value. You know, Spike Lee used to have this thing, we are not niggas, right? Understand your value. And when you understand your value, you'll start to understand what you have in your possession. Other people do. That's why if you look in the North End now, it don't look like it looked 5-10 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's why you look in so-called New Center now. Why you look in my old neighborhood, 12th Street and 14th, people understood the value in Boston Edison, the value on the number streets, the value in different places. And if you understood your value, you would get more involved in the economy of your neighborhood, but then that'll move you into being more of controlling the politics of your neighborhood. That's all I have to say. You know, you bigger than what you playing.
Dig that. My brother, Kwame Kilpatrick, man. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother. It's good to be here, man. I hope that helps somebody. Yeah. It helped me.
I believe so, man. So we appreciate y'all for tuning in on this episode. We'll see y'all next time in the neighborhood where we will continue to mind the business that raised us.
Man.
All power to the people.
Love y'all.
This neighborhood business. Come on now, you know what we doing. This neighborhood business. We out here every day with it, all day, every day. This neighborhood business. Where you at? What you doing? We standing on neighborhood business. Welcome to the neighborhood, where we stand on neighborhood business. This program is about building power, unity, and pride, block by block. We here to support our businesses, strengthen our communities, and make sure Detroit neighborhoods shine again. Because when we stand together, we win together. This New Era Detroit, neighborhood business.